Roseland Chamber of Commerce, candidate forum for Supervisor District 2. And I do have to do a disclaimer that the Chamber of Commerce is a non-political organization. We do not favor any political party as a business. And hope everyone respects that. So the format today, we have our 6 candidates.
Use your words.
Candidates, try not to say but for supervisors of District 2. And we have Pete Brad from Oregon.
Thanks for coming out tonight.
Dale Cisneros,
Thanks for having me here.
Kelly Carden Jr., Chris Carlier,
Thank you.
Ken Dula, and last and most certainly not least, Bernina Jenkins. Okay, so the format for today is going to be starting off with each candidate going to introduce themselves, give their qualifications, and what they are going to do for Roseland. So let's start off with Bill. And you have maximum 5 minutes.
Good evening and thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Dale Cisneros and I am a farmer in Tehachapi with my beautiful wife who's over here tonight, Lori Cisneros. And she currently serves on the Kern County Board of Education. She's doing an excellent job. I'm very proud of her. First thing I want you to know about me is that I am not a politician. I'm a grassroots America First candidate. I'm a proud American. I am a realtor, entrepreneur, and businessman. And I have a bachelor's degree in business management with 20 years of experience in management roles, which include CEO, vice president, controller, operations, human resources, construction, and finance. This experience uniquely qualifies me to serve, but that's not what truly I care about. I care about the people of Kern County, specifically District 2 and Eastern Kern, the areas that have been dismissed and left behind. My motivation for running is deeply personal and rooted in my faith. I am a man of prayer with strong convictions. I felt called to serve, and I've answered. I said, here I am, send me. Over the last several months, I've spent time talking with leaders and with community business owners, and there's a significant frustration and feeling of abandonment by the former supervisor. Moving forward, my commitment is to regularly meet with each community, listen to their concerns and ideas, and then take those concerns and ideas back to these other supervisors to work together and establish a trust and find effective solutions for the communities. Among the topics discussed were in the west side of the oil and gas industry. It's a critical component of Kern County's economy. The west side alone at its peak was delivering 70% of California's oil. And it generated billions in tax revenues, but since then it's been shut down, and I think it's 2045 they're going to completely shut down the oil fields. I believe this is very important to Kern County for revenues to operate for all of Kern County. Another topic is public safety. It's a huge concern, specifically that Prop 47 and Prop 58, they reduced criminal sentences, so it encourages criminal behavior. And we need increased funds for law enforcement. Homelessness is another big problem. Millions of dollars have been spent by this county to address homelessness, the homeless crisis, with little effect. So I propose the Homeless to Hope initiative, which is a collaboration between property owners, businesses, churches, community organizations, and local health agencies. This program will provide individuals with the opportunity to get off the streets, rebuild their lives, gain a sense of purpose, develop life skills, and learn a trade. Finally, we need to address the local election process. I'm committed to working with the Board of Supervisors to restore the public's trust in the elections. I believe in a fair and reliable election process where the voter rolls are clean, the process is trustworthy, and the voice of the people is paramount. We, the people, are the decision-making force in our republic, and our voices will never be silenced. I will bring transparency to the Kern County Board of Supervisors to ensure that the voices of District 2 are heard and represented. I am asking for your support and your vote. My name is Dale Cisneros. I am a true voice for the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, next, Chris Carter.
Thank you. Well, 5 minutes, I guess I'm going to give you a long version. So I'm Chris Perlier. I'm the son of a fighter pilot, a retired oil executive. My mom was a nurse. I was raised in a farm area in Illinois and came out to California in the United States Air Force. Served our country honorably for 4 years. And take me to So that's my lovely wife, Debbie. So I came out in 85, 4 years in Air Force. Got a job at Tehachapi Prison right out of the military, and did 3 years there. And a couple of months into that, I met my lovely wife, Debbie. We just went 38 years together. In September, I had 3 grandchildren, wonderful, wonderful kids. I went on to have a great career with the state. I retired as a special agent with California Department of Justice Bureau of Narcotic Enforcement. My last assignment was right across the border, Antelope Valley High Desert Task Force, chasing down meth labs. I'm pretty sure it was a ton of them back then. In about 2010, we had an issue across the street. Debbie and I go on walks every morning, and there was a development during the housing crisis of 2008 that area, well, it crashed, and the developers went bankrupt, and 3 other developers came in, and they reduced the lot sizes and did a block wall, 1 block wall, 3 different types of block. And I met a new councilman at the time. I didn't know his name, but he said, "Hey, let's meet for breakfast. I want to talk about some issues in our area." I go, "This would never happen. 3 different types of block on 1 block wall in other areas of Bakersfield, and live in Bakersfield." And he says, "I have a great committee for you. It's called Keep Bakersfield Beautiful." I was like, "What's that do?" He goes, "Well, you paint out graffiti, you pick up trash, you plant flowers on weekends." And I was like, "Okay, Chris, pick up where your mouth is." And I got on a committee, really enjoyed it. 4 years later, he ran for a county position, suggested I run for his city spot, and I did it. I was a reluctant candidate. I got in the last day. I've been a Republican all my life since I first voted for Ronald Reagan, but I ran against the machine Republican and a supported Democrat, and I just ran on public safety, infrastructure, and supporting our community and jobs, and I won. And I had 8 successful years with the city of Bakersfield. I was responsible for the hiring of 100 police officers, stabilizing the budget. When I started Bakersfield, the city was effectively broke. And when I left, we had about $50 million in the bank. Bringing on ShotSpotter technology, which stopped getting shootings downtown. Bringing back the police motor unit of about 20 motorcycles from 0. Bringing infrastructure, including the Hoskin ramp on 99, and setting the stage for literally thousands of jobs for development. There's going to be a distribution center and different things going along that area off of Hoskin 99. I have the most ramps of any council in the city. But enough about Bakersfield. I want to talk about what I'm going to do for you here, because all I hear is these terms that are neglected. What's a Bakersfield boy going to do for his term? Well, I tell you, 8 years of experience, I kind of put it this way. If you're going to have surgery, you want a doctor who's had no operations under the belt, or somebody who's had 100 operations. Being involved in big government for the last 8 years, I feel has really effectively prepared me. Bakersfield has a budget of about $1 billion. The county's $4 billion, but I have a relationship with really the whole board at this point, and a lot of the staff that work for the county. So I know that needs for Roseman. Let's just start with graffiti. When I came out here for Armed Forces Day for the parade, there was graffiti that I noticed. Streets were way deteriorated. I had a lot of success in my area. I had the same thing when I took the council. I had horrible streets. I got them all repaved. I'm not talking seal. I got them torn up and repaved. And right across another area, another councilman, we're just in the same condition. Why? Because they didn't push staff to get it done, and I did. Banking is another issue. I know that this area, Mojave, doesn't have a bank. I know Alt One is thinking about potentially putting a bank here. I know a group is been formed to try and get banking here. I would support that group and work with either Alt One or another bank to try and get banking needs here. Because I know it's so difficult when you have a business or just a family and you have simple banking needs and you can't do it without going over to LA or to Tehachapi, which is stupid. Public safety. I mean, my bread and butter was public safety. That was my career. I have a great relationship with the Sheriff Donnie Youngblood. He's supporting me, including the deputies, probation officers, the Prosecutors Association. Just my involvement on a committee. It was called It was called Safe Neighborhoods Committee within the City Council. I was chairing that committee for several years, really working with law enforcement almost on a daily basis to try and improve the public safety needs for the city, but that is just so easily carried over to those county needs. Trying to bring extra resources here, a substation, a good substation, a new substation to Roseman, extra deputies for this area, and detention deputies. Detention deputies are so important because nobody stays in jail unless we have those detention deputies. And I'll stop there. I don't want to hog Pete's time, but my name is Chris Collier, and thank you for listening.
Pete?
Got that water transfer right there. Good evening, my name is Pete Graff. I want to thank y'all for coming out tonight. I think it's important here that you really come out here inquisitive instead of looking at road signs and hearing some side information. It's good to come out and ask these questions. A little bit about myself. I'm grew up in Tehachapi since 1979. Well familiar with all of Eastern Kern County. We moved up there after my father retired from LAPD. And kind of ran in the blood. So we actually started a security company together where we ran it over a decade. We operated out of Lancaster, Palmdale, Mojave, Tehachapi, Bakersfield. We had over 120 employees. We had a great business until the recession hit, unfortunately. The Lord blessed me at that time with another great gig, and that was law enforcement. I became a police officer where I was a canine handler, a drug recognition expert. I was part of the highway interdiction team, so I got to do all the cool stuff on the freeways when you find a bunch of drugs and the bad people on the roads. Part of an emergency response team where we did multiple search warrants, a lot in your city here, when we had a bunch of illegal grows and meth labs. But we cleaned it up. But unfortunately, since those times, we've kind of slipped backwards. Currently, I'm a watch commander on a federal contract for a police department on Edwards Air Force Base, so I'm in law enforcement now. I know what's on the streets, and I know what's plaguing the streets. You don't have to necessarily wear a badge to see we have huge issues. We have huge issues with encampments out here. We have a huge fentanyl crisis, methamphetamine crisis. We need to start addressing these things. And a few of the things I'm going to bring to the table, coming from law enforcement, having that current mindset and knowing what's plaguing these communities, there's a lot of mental trauma. And when you look at the mental trauma that's out there, as law enforcement, you can say, I can put them in jail. What's that going to do? You talk to most folks that go to jail these days, it's an accolade. They come back out, they brag about it. They actually gain resources while they're in there. The drugs we're trying to keep them off, there's more of those drugs inside there, they're just a little more expensive. So when they come outside, one of the things I'm going to push for is we start addressing root cause issues. We try and find out what are these people's problems. Don't get me wrong, some just need to go to jail. There are those people, those permanent customers that just need to be incarcerated. And we have a few here. And just so you know, there's some registered sex offenders that are coming into the area. I've actually emailed the parole board saying this is unacceptable, especially the distance within the kids are walking towards the schools here, and being in the immediate area around the high school, that is completely unacceptable. So I put my 2 cents in on that just for Roseman, because your children don't deserve to have the predator walking these streets, especially adjacent to a school area. So I put my 2 cents in on that. Let's go back to the trauma though. If I was to stand 10 people up in this room that I've arrested, not you folks, but I can guarantee you, 8 of them are going to have some type of trauma. And it's going to be a trauma that occurred in their youth. It's a trauma that occurred as an adult. And when people have trauma, they have different ways of suppressing it. And these days, we're really dealing with a huge narcotics issue and alcohol issue. They're taking these traumas and they're hiding them. So they're suppressing those issues. And when they can no longer afford those drugs, when they've done stealing from family and friends, they venture out in the community. That's where we have our catalytic converter thefts. That's where we have our door checker thefts. People breaking into your homes. We have to address the issues that are making this occur. We know they're occurring. We can arrest them. And let's be honest, right now our system is not effective. You arrest somebody right now, I can tell you, you're going to give them a ticket for probably 9 out of 10 crimes that really, they're just going to get a ticket. They're going to get a court date. They're going to get a court date they never show up to. Then they get a warrant. Then they get another ticket for the warrant for the court date they never show up to. We have a broken system. So as a supervisor, we need to sit down with the district attorney. We need to start barking at Sacramento and say we need some changes. Because Sacramento, let's be honest, they created this problem. And we all have to deal with it. And I don't think that's fair to you guys. So that's one of the things I'm going to push is we really need to support more mental health programs. We really need to increase our MET units, which are mental evaluation teams. We need to increase them. I can guarantee you there's not a MET unit in this area right now. They have one in Bakersfield for the city and one for the county, especially after 5 o'clock. So these are issues we need to address. We need to double up that staff, especially where Eastern Kern has more deputies, has mental evaluation teams, and people actually go to jail. But once they're arrested, we can find out what the problems are. Now we have court, now we have counseling, now we have psychiatrists that can possibly help them as opposed to just incarcerating them. We're wasting money with people going to jail, if they go to jail. That's one of the things I really want to attack. You have huge problems out here, and it occurs all over Eastern Kern. That occurs with homelessness out here, a little more prominent with homeless encampments, where you get out there, now you have waste, now you have discarded paraphernalia, needles, broken med pipes, crack stems are busted on the ground, and you know, who's going to be out there? There's waste. They're not using restrooms out there. There's not porta potties. We have to take this into consideration. So we really have to start cracking down on that. And it's hard to do because we don't have code enforcement.
5 minutes.
You're 5? Okay. Yeah, we don't have code enforcement. We don't have sheriff's deputies. So my thing is let's approach our human services budget, because we have undocumented persons taking a huge amount of our human services budget, and we need to reallocate that money towards mental evaluation teams and sheriff's deputies. Let's not giving people, undocumented people, more privileges and more safety and security than our own citizens have. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Kelly?
Man, that's a tough follow. So guys, my name is Kelly Cardin Jr. I'm actually a lifelong and 3rd generation resident of Roseman. My stepdad's family moved here in 1965. And since then, every year we've actually had a member of my family in school here, including my own 4 children who are now in the same schools that I attended as a kid. I love it. My grandmother was a librarian. My grandfather helped build the freeway. When I was 7 years old, my mom actually opened up a variety store in town. A little bit of a stereotype, we're Asian, we had a convenience store. And we ran that thing for 30 years. That's actually where I learned how to care about my community. One of the unique aspects of running the dollar store is you know who all the poor families are. When my mom knew a thing or two about being poor, she was born into the abject poverty in the Philippines. At 6 years old, she used to walk 8 miles back and forth in the fields. At 8 years old, her family turned down an opportunity to sell her. I said sell her. At 11, she dropped out of school. 13, she was a child war brought to America. And everything that could happen happened to her. My dad died when I was 9 years old. And she took that money and she moved us out of Los Angeles to Kern County, and she found her American dream. I remember being as young as 8, 9 years old, and I'd come home from school, and right about this time of year, the holiday season, and we would bathe. And and I mean bake thousands of cookies. But you see, my mom knew all the pork animals. So that means Thanksgiving morning, I'd wake up about 6 a.m. and pack up those cookies, and we deliver to every single house that she knew struggled. The people that would come into our store, they would trade their food stamps for coins because it was the only way they had extra cash. And we ran that like until I was about 34 years old, 35 years old. She owned her own building. She's a proud American. I was raised by that. That's the language that I learned. Actually, I learned a lot of different things. She would only cuss at me if it was in Tagalog. She didn't cuss in English. She said that it didn't count. When I was 10 years old, so Mrs. Riley's here, she's actually one of my second grade teachers. When I was 10 years old, I walked inside the door, and I learned a lesson that day. And I said, Mom. She said, Nana, guess what? I said, what, boy? I said, you know how you pay me with a child with the whole gummy worms and baseball card thing? That's called child labor, it's illegal. And she looked at me in the face and she said, those laws are written in English, not Tagalog, they don't count for you. So I worked in that store, and I worked, and I learned about how my community operated, and I took part in events when I was a kid, and I kept doing it as an adult. I moved away when I was 20 after working in restaurant kitchen here at Guido's. Moved to Vegas for 5 years. I actually got my degree in biblical studies. I worked at the Las Vegas Dream Center across the street from the state's largest projects. I walked through the streets where cops wouldn't go. They knocked on the door, it was 3 o'clock in the morning. There was a gang shooting, and I knew both gangs. I went and I sat every one of them. Make sure there was no retaliation. Came home. Built my life, met my wife here at Guido's. She walked in, she was the cutest blonde I'd ever seen. But I was a professional, I never in a million years had hit on her at work. But Ray, he works in the kitchen, he would. So I walked in that kitchen, I said, Ray, that girl's so hot. He walked outside, said, hey, the guy says you're hot, leave your number. We've been together 15 years. I'm a member of the Roseland Town Council, the RMAC board. I advocate for our town every single day. We have a sheriff station in planning. I want to see that happen. I also want to know how come they haven't reopened. They've promised us a temporary sheriff station. I'd like to know why they haven't given it to us. It's supposed to open this past March. Priorities for Roseland, we need urgent care. Supposedly we have one coming. I'd love to see that through. We need a fully funded parks department. We have members of potentially members of our school board and our water board here. I believe that when I'm elected, we can finally find a solution for United Park. So that families like mine who live on the wrong side of the tracks can have the same access to the same nice parks that the other side have.
Yes.
My kids shouldn't have a broken park because the house that I could afford was on that side of the tracks. Speaking of the tracks, in Roseland very specifically, we need a second way across them. We had an interview at the Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce. I was 17 minutes late for mine. They gave me no opportunity to make it up because the train stopped on our tracks and I can't get through. These are the challenges they're facing as part of the district. I live these issues every single day.
5 minutes, wrap up, please.
And if you elect me to be your supervisor, I will continue to advocate alongside you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Benita?
It's hard to come after someone who lives in the area, and everybody knows, and everybody's related to. And that's okay. It's okay. I'm Benita Jenkins, and I am running for 2nd District Supervisor. I am the mother of 4 children. My husband and I were married 35 years before his passing. This is the one thing I'm going to say, and I said it earlier today. If you have a spouse at home, tell your spouse that you love them. Take them by the hand, hug them, do all of that stuff. Because when they're gone, you miss it. Even down to the little arguments, you miss it. So go home and have an argument. Anyway, one of the things that Curtis and I did, not by choice, but it worked out so well, we had one car at one point for almost 10 years. And we drove that blue Aerostar everywhere. He'd take me to work, drop off the kids at the daycare. Then we'd have lunch every day together because I had to do the turnaround. So I learned how to cooperate. That's hard for women, right? I learned how to cooperate and do the things that I needed to do to make my family happy and to grow healthy. My husband was pastor of the church for 26 years, so I was the dreaded pastor's wife. But I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the fact that I learned how to be a public servant. I really did. And not only that, I worked for the Kern High School District. I was in education for 25 plus years. I went from being an instructional assistant to being a teacher. I only would do high school because I'm telling you, those little ones, not me and them. Miss Jenkins couldn't do it. I had to be in the high school system. I taught government and econ, and whenever I taught government to my students, it was straight down the line. They never knew what side of the party I stood on. They didn't know that. They would have to find out because Miss Jenkins was finally run for something while they were in my class, and they come and they go, "Oh, that's who you are." Yes, that's who I am. Now let's get back to it. I even taught debate. And in teaching debate, once they found out, they thought, "Oh, she's gonna lean in that direction." Nah, I take them straight down the line, and then I flip the script on them, and then I go back the other way. I enjoyed what I did. And then one day, some little boy lost his mind and said something, and I decided, it's time to do something else. So then I went to work for unions. And I started with SEIU 521, and I worked for them for 4.5 years. And I represented all of Kern County because I had a Department of Human Services and I had the road yard. And one of the things that the folks in Mojave and in California City, not California City, but Ridgecrest always said, no one ever came to visit them. Now the one that I really had a hard time going to visit was Lake Isabella. You ever drove those roads front and back? But I made my point of getting over there to see them as well. What I know is I was one of the first people that ran against Zach Scribner. And I knew what he was like because I was handed the information. I tried to tell everybody what he was like, that he would never represent, that he would never do the job, he would never. And that was at city council level. Then when I ran against him for the Board of Supervisors for the first time, I did it purposely because there were 2 people running and I wanted to make sure I knocked one of them out. Well, I did exactly that. I knocked one of them out. In all of this, I have been a board member for the Greenfield School District. I have been on boards and commissions with the county. I was called by the Board of Supervisors for the 5th District to go into one of our senior centers because I took a hiatus for a minute. And he said, there's a problem over at the senior center. Can you go in there and see if you can fix it? Because otherwise their funding is going to be taken away. It took me 18 months. I found out within 6 months where the money was going, but it took me 18 months total to get it cleared up. And I did. That senior center is still standing today, and they're getting ready to build a new one. I have been called by another board member, Don Maven. He and I became fast friends when I ran against him at one point. And Don and I became friends, and he said, what board do you want to be on? And I told him. And so he put me on whatever board or commission I wanted to be on. And so I was sitting, doing nothing but working, and he says, I got a board I need you to go on. And I said, why? He said, there's a problem, and I know you'll go in there and fix it. And I said, oh, okay. So I went in, I sat down on that board, and I listened, paid attention. Sure enough, within a matter of months, we knew what the issue was, and we had to get it taken care of. And we did. And we changed that board. So this is what you get with me if you vote for me. See, I'm applying for your job as Board of Supervisors. You will get someone who will listen to you. You will get someone who will act. You will get someone who will show up. Not only that, you get a public servant, because that's what I learned to be. I am the public servant. I am the one that's here to serve you. So if you vote for me and I get the job, you'll be happy, and we'll do a great job together.
Thank you, Benny.
Jack began this little shindig tonight by saying you are not a political organization. We have that in common. Neither am I. I am an independent, registered, no-party preference candidate. I will work with any side. My name is Ben Duell, and I am a 2-term elected director with the Stallion Springs Board of, with the Stallion Springs Community Service District Board. I have been there for 7 years, police, roads, sewer, water, parks and rec, all the kinds of things that a board of supervisor is supposed to be doing in the guise of his job as well. And so it is all the same things that the board does now that I do as a director at Stallion Springs Community Service District. We are, of course, non-partisan. And part of the joy of the job is working with everyone. And that's what I hope to do in terms of becoming your supervisor in District 2, is to work with everybody, and particularly rural. Because I live rural in a community of only 3,500 people. And we can't get things done by the county. We have one road coming in and out of the district. And one company, a very big agricultural company, has been allowed to change the flow of natural water, which is illegal by California law, straight, not legal, to flood our one road into the district every year. Every time we get heavy rains, I've spoken to the old supervisor that occupied this position. I've spoken to our new representative in District 20, and gotten no response. Well, this is a critical infrastructure issue. A county road is being flooded, the only way in and out of our community, but no response. So I'm going to be really absolutely pleased to go out to all the rural communities. That is my pledge to you, is to listen to what you need done in your communities that the county can actually get done. And the way that we solve these issues in my district is that we do a lot of them ourselves. So I will encourage you to look for solutions within your own communities. And whatever we can help you with in the county, that's what I will be your voice. Your voice, yes, your voice. That's what I was looking for, but yes, your voice. That's a good. I am also a director with the Various Hearing Board with the Eastern Kern Air Pollution Control District, and in that service to Kern County, I adjudicate between companies like Edwards Air Force Base, U.S. Borax, Cal Portland Cement, with the people's desire to have clean air. And sometimes I'm the only decider of whether a variance is issued. It's a lot of responsibility, but it's something I've taken on for Eastern Kern County. So I have had the experience to slide right into this job. And I should remind you that this job is only for a year, maybe two. I'm not sure when it actually ends, but it's not a full term. And to these people's credit that are sitting up with me today, they have all decided to take on this challenge. And I give them credit for that, because the Board of Supervisors didn't give us any help in regards to filing for this. You know, paid the same fees for a regular term, very little time. So I am applauding everyone who put out and is here for you to judge and to select as your next supervisor.
5 minutes.
I will say this, just to finish up, that I have never gotten a government paycheck. I don't get one now. It's a service to the county. In fact, I did get a government paycheck at one time when my wife and I were in Yosemite National Park one snowy evening. The rangers came to us and asked us to participate in a search and rescue. And because I had a particular set of skills. I said yes, and I got a half-a-day paycheck from the government. Thank you.
Thank you very much, candidates. Good job. Okay, for this next session, we are going to have questions and answers from the audience. Questions from the audience, answers from the candidates. Each candidate that wants to respond to it, you can address your question to an individual or a group, but the whole group has an opportunity to respond to any question. Okay, so any questions? Yes. She raised her hand first. What's your
You
question?
want me to stand up?
Yeah.
Please.
Do you want a microphone, Mary?
Oh, no, I don't.
Okay.
Well, you're recording it, yes. So that those can hear it on the. You want to walk it that way? Hi.
I'm Mary.
Hi, sweetie. My name is Mary Hines. I am a homeowner here in Roseman. Right now, we are preparing for another fight with, between Waste Management and Public Works for them adding fees onto our property taxes. As a group, individually, I would like to know, we have ideas of how they can do this without burdening the homeowners even more on top of the inflation that we're already dealing with. But individually, I'd like to know, do you support adding fees to our property taxes for waste management? That's my question to you, because that is the fight that we're in right now.
All right, so 30 seconds each candidate for this response.
Thank you for that question. I do not support adding fees, raising taxes, and I will do everything in my power to fight that, because it is where we are right now in our economic state in the country. And even right now in Kern County, it's unreasonable to begin to put more burdens on the residents. So I am absolutely opposed to raising any fees.
So we're battling Sacramento again because these fees are being caused by, thank you, Jack, by the state of California, imposing just onerous regulations on us. When I was on the Bakersfield City Council, our solid waste division would come usually every couple of years, sometimes every year, to request 1%, 2% rate hike for trash services, and consistently I voted no on it. I'll do the same with the county.
You could. Pete, or anybody else?
Absolutely, I do not support that, Mary. And what we need to do is realize we have monopolization going on here. We have waste management, we've kind of tied our hands, we don't have a whole lot of choices. And I think it's up to the people, up to the county, to really solicit outside companies to come inside the area so that we can get the lower prices, because they seem to monopolize the whole area from east to western Kern County. They're everywhere. And you drive down south, they're there. So as far as that issue goes, absolutely not. And I'll tell you right now, back when I was a kid, you would sit there and just throw your trash away, and they had employees who would separate it. And I'll tell you what they're doing is they're having us do all their work for them by putting things in different cans so that they don't have to hire anybody at the facility. So absolutely not. And I think we need to quit this monopolization to one company.
Thank you, Pete. Bill?
So I've been fighting against SB 1383 for a couple of years now, and I will continue to do so. The reality is most unincorporated communities in Kern County have already beaten it, and they've given them a solution to solve their issue without charging them anything. Roseman is a Bedlam community, so we have a higher number of renters in most communities because everyone here travels back and forth to Los Angeles. It makes it significantly harder for us to petition against them. If I am elected as the next supervisor, there's zero way that I would ever vote in favor of this. I will 100% be part of the petition gathering that should be there.
Great, thank you.
Renita?
The answer is no. I just had to ask him if it was still Ben's. because it's waste management, and it's the green trucks, right? And those green trucks, like someone else says, are all over the state of California, and they're making big money. And so we need to put a stop to that because it becomes a monopoly, and it just needs to be stopped.
So I recently was the only dissenting vote at Stallion Springs for a road tax increase. The reasons for that were many, but mainly the other directors just simply didn't understand the people with whom that they pretend to represent. I felt like I had a better handle on that, and I couldn't convince them of that. But I will say this, I led a mini tax revolt against 1383 because the way it was presented and actually enabled for individuals was it put a higher burden, an inequitable burden, on single home tax payers than multiple units. And to me, it just didn't make any sense. So, I mean, I'm proud that I did that. I didn't get very far. It passed. I mean, it's done now. So, we live with the extra tax burden on our tax bills.
Everybody's got to realize too, the state of California does not believe in Kern County's philosophy. So they have their agendas, we have our agenda. So that's a great question because that's a really tough resolution to apply. All right, next question. Sure.
I do have a teacher voice, but I will use the microphone so that it's recorded here. First of all, Pete, I have to say that I noticed that you were a few moments late because you were ordering from Guido's. And I appreciate anybody that comes into a small business and orders a meal. I think it's important, and I hope all 6 of you choose to do so before you leave.
It smells so good.
It does. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. And I think if I could vote for all 6 of you, I definitely would. But I have a couple of questions here. Chris, and I wish I'd brought paper or glasses, one of the two here. You had said that you were interested in bringing a bank to Roseman, and then you prefaced that with, that we could either go to Tehachapi or go to Los Angeles. Are you aware of how close we are to Lancaster?
Absolutely. I used to be on a narcotics task force in Lancaster, Palmdale. But that doesn't help the people in Mojave too much, too. I think banking needs are needed here, whether it's in Mojave or Roseman. I think it's a convenience for elderly. I think it's convenience for businesses. And I think it's convenience for families. And I ordered a large pizza over there, and I haven't had a piece yet.
Good. I just wanted to make sure that you knew how close we were.
Oh, absolutely.
For the record, Chris was the first one to order. I was standing right
No, and when I said that, I guess my point was, why do you have to drive 30 minutes to a bank?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I drive a minute. So.
Good.
Yeah.
Is there any other candidates want to respond to that question?
You know, I will, as far as the banks go, I've actually spoke to a couple of banks. And the problem is with Eastern Kern County is really the foot traffic. Who's going to be inside these places? Who's going to be able to utilize it as a business? It's a business. So the best that I've came up with and actively speaking to them is actually Bank of the Sierra, who's considering a mobile unit, and they're considering it for possibly 1 to 2 days a week, and that is in the Eastern Kern, Cal City, Mojave area. It's really kind of hard to really solicit these folks to come out because they're in business to make money, right? So, but if you could work with them, let's start with something. We can get anything from them, we'll get anything from them. It's hard to see them putting up a brick and mortar place, but if we can get a mobile unit out here to help the folks out so they don't have to travel, that's what I'm trying to do.
Thank you, Pete.
So I was part of the group that's actually worked with Alta One, spoken Alta One, and they have problems with the lack of locations here in Roseman. They can't be next to Albertsons because it's close to the freeway. Evidently, it makes it easier to rob. And there's no suitable locations on the east side of the highway. So it's a huge challenge because the reality is we need more construction of commercial properties on the west side of the freeway. So, I mean, the best bet is for us to get it into this. I'm an elected supervisor, will probably be aiming for them to open up in Mojave. And I think that to expand through that, what these guys mentioned, like hard to get places, we need to increase funding for dial rides, specifically here in East County. The county insists you can dial 211 for a ride, and you cannot currently. And I'd like to see that actually be a little bit true.
Thank you.
Well, I'd just like to address the pizza question, and it does look awfully good. I spent my money on gas to get down here.
Leave it alone. How about you guys? Very good. Okay.
I'm absolutely in favor of looking into bringing a banking unit here. And I think the mobile banking is a great idea, at least to start. We also need to make it favorable for more businesses, which would increase traffic and the participation by buyers, and then, also increase that opportunity for a bank here, eventually brick and mortar.
Thank you, David. All right. Yes, questions?
I don't know if this is more, excuse me, Rick Webb, I live in Williston. I don't know if it's more a question or a statement, but thank you guys for coming out here, because it's tough to sit in front of strangers. You don't know what they're gonna ask you, but you folks talk a lot of topics, but Roseman gets ignored by everybody. And I hear you folks talking about what you're gonna do. I'm an elected official in Roseman. Greg is here, the Gregs are here, we're all from the water district, but the thing I see, and I know I can't point and say what you folks are not gonna do, we talk a real good show. Our roads are terrible, our streets are nasty.
Yeah.
Okay, and then if we got a problem now, and again, this is so you folks can think about what's going on here. There's probably more people in Roseman that can respond to help than the police department. That's not fair to just the community, number one. Number two, the fire department. We have one fire truck, one paramedic, one response vehicle. You brought up a good point. That train gets them stuck, whatever you got on the side, they keep saying whatever just want to respond. From the gate to the boulevard, about 15 minutes going to code 3. So what I'm trying to ask you folks, look at all this stuff. We're not looking for promises. We're looking for realities of life. I can tell all of you folks here, and I've met a few of you, and thank you folks for coming out here. But this community is growing. There's a developer that's talking about putting more houses here. I guarantee you, the supervisor's office didn't know about it. Nobody didn't know because they don't come over and talk to us. And sheriff's department's important, fire department's important, but the quality of life in Roseman is almost at a minus because we've had some dynamics. You folks have no control with that, but even before that, we still had dynamics. I'm going to tell all of you, whoever gets here, I've been writing down some of the promises you made. And Rick Webb's going to be asking, what about your promises? Because it's real good to get my vote because you made a promise. It's a lot harder to keep the promise when you try to bring it to life. And I'm not going to hold no one accountable for none of it. But the folks, whoever gets the seat, please come over here, talk to these folks here, because there's some good ideas. I'll tell you one that we don't even address. I did a tour at Everett Air Force Base last week. They were talking about the dynamics of building a museum. You have Willow Springs out there. This community couldn't even serve it. We have no nice hotel beside this place here. We don't have a lot of nice places. I know that's not a supervisor's thing, but I'm looking at East Kern Development. Doesn't even talk about what goes on. They have meetings here. They don't talk about development. So give us a break there. I salute y'all for coming out here again. Those are more of a statement than a question because sometimes it's more of a statement than a question. Thank you, folks.
Well, I appreciate your statement, and that is my commitment to meet regularly and as much as possible for each community. It's a big geographical district, and if it means meeting online via Zoom so that we can at least expedite the questions, the ideas, because you all live specifically here, you know, and so you have the ideas. You have the ideas to bring to the table that can really mean the difference of developing more for this city, for this unincorporated area. But it's important. It's important. So yeah, I'll expand more later. But I do have some idea. Chris.
To be honest, this area is a beast. I mean, it goes all the way from Taft all the way out here, Fraser Park, Bakersfield. I think it starts with your team. As a new supervisor, you're going to have field reps. You're going to have good teammates out there. They're going to be your point of contact on a daily basis. I have a record. I have a record of getting things done. I was not only a Rubber Meets Road Council member, I was a worker bee. I work with businesses. Like I said, thousands of jobs are coming to that south end of Bakersfield because of the business relationships that I have and made then. And I'm going to continue that. Roads, another issue. Got them all repaved in my area, and they've been neglected before. I promise to do the same thing again. I know about the train issues, and I'll work with anybody to help this community. And my promise is that I will be working for you too.
Thanks.
Yeah, great concerns, and they're legitimate concerns. As a first responder, I understand the railroad tracks. When you are rolling code to a child choking or a domestic battery and you're stuck in a train, it makes your insides crawl up inside you. It's a horrible feeling knowing that you can't help somebody. So I know these first responders out here, these folks are feeling the same thing. Unfortunately though, that being said, going eastbound, you're really minimized by growth. And that's how we get more fire stations, that's how we get more sheriff's deputies. It's based off of population. Your growth is gonna be more westbound, so that's probably where you see it. But yes, I mean, absolutely, you gotta work on something where you can get to somebody quicker. And I feel for it, I really do, because that hurts a lot inside. As far as community aspect, committed days. As a supervisor, I'm gonna sit down here, I'll have committed dated days where you can come and see me, and we sit down and talk. Those will be dates that we will make, and then you'll have your concerns right then and there. Instead of emails and phone calls, we handle it face to face.
Which is like a phone call now.
So I would argue it's significantly harder to speak in front of people that know me very well. I mean, because this is my accountability, right? I mean, there's literally decades and decades of relationships that I built with people in this room since I was a small child. The way that we represent you has been making the area smaller by multiplying the number of NAC boards that we have in our district. So rather than myself and my 3-member staff going to 14 different towns, we're going to 4 or 5 different committee meetings, and it just makes the house makes it smaller. Here in East Kern, I want to advocate for an East Kern Government Center, so that way people like code enforcement and the rapid trash pickups, they can be based out of Mojave, and those employees can be based out of this area as well. So not wasting half of their day driving back and forth, and they're spending more of their time and more of their tax dollars serving you the way they're supposed to. As far as economic development, I'd love to see us have some kind of economic development enterprise zone where businesses can come in. And what we would do specifically is the county has a lot of those resources available. So on a monthly or a quarterly basis, I would ask the county's economic development office to work with local chambers of commerces across our district and teach business owners how to apply for the resources that are already available that communities like ours never see because they run out before we hear about them. I think that has to be the biggest change that we see to make sure that we're able to fight for ourselves.
Thank you.
So I believe in reality over rhetoric. And what a lot of you have gotten in the 2nd District in the last 12 years has been rhetoric. You call the office, as Ms. Mary said, no one answers the phone. If he does answer the phone, he doesn't come back with an answer for you. And so that's what you've got, and then you got promises of a former supervisor coming out to see you. You may or may not have seen him, only at the time of election. Okay, so now, let's move to reality. Reality says Bernita Jenkins does what she says. She doesn't tell you something she's not going to do. She won't steer you in a different direction than what she says she's going to take you. You need reality. It's time for reality. Let's move in the direction where we move away from rhetoric, and let's move into the point where you have a supervisor that will represent you, will be out here to talk to you, will spend time with you. Like Mr. Gould said, this is only a 2-year position, so we're going to get as much done in 2 years that we can possibly get done.
We like pizza and food over here.
You like pizza and food? Well, see, I work with nurses and they love pizza, and I was like, okay, can we get something other than pizza? All right. And by the way, Miss Mary, I stopped in Tehachapi on my way here, and I ate at a little place there. So I just want you to know I spent money over there. Oh no, it was you. It was you, Mr. Ron.
Ben?
So as I recall the young man's question, 5 candidates ago, it was about not making promises. And I don't believe I've made anyone any promises here tonight other than I will be here to listen to you. And the key is to have a good field staff. It is really incumbent on you folks to let us know, whoever is going to be your representative, what you need. And if there's any realistic way that we can make it happen. That's the only way I work, is by looking at the data, looking at the funding, looking at the community, and making those decisions based on all those factors. I'm a scientist by training, and that's why I make all my decisions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Jack.
Huh?
I had a question.
We'll take 2 more questions, otherwise we'll be here all night.
Well, that's okay.
So,
I got time.
I got time. That's what we're here for.
well, we still have, how many people have questions?
I'll leave my calzone in till
I think we all have questions, really.
Right? That's what we're here.
Let's try to get from as quick as we can. Joe?
Chris and Ben both touched on field staff, having good field staff. Could I get a commitment from you guys? The only stable thing we have in District 2 is Karen Sanders as a field rep. She came in, hitting the ground running in January. I have the pleasure of working with her pretty much on a daily basis. I can call her up. Anybody in the community can call her up. I know I can speak for my board. I can probably speak for a majority of the community. We want to see her stay on and represent our community. She's an asset. She will be an asset to whoever takes that position, and she's an asset to our community.
She's amazing.
He cares.
Yeah.
He cares.
Yes.
Well, that is great to hear. And I can say, after having shared the dais with many of these people sitting here tonight, that some of them might make good field representatives after I'm elected.
He took my statement. But to you, Joel, I can't, it goes back to what Ben said earlier. We have to be very careful in making promises, because we've got to be able to work with whoever the field staff is as well. I've heard about great things about Karen. I'm not going to go against that. But we have to be ready to say who works best for us and then works best for the community as well, because we got to have that communication.
So I actually think what Bernita said is perfect, because I've been asked about other members across the county, and the reality is I'm going to hire staff that works for me, that I believe can serve you. Most people in this room know that I have an incredibly close relationship with Karen Sanders. I don't think it's appropriate to speak beyond that, just with the other, situations across the county.
I think it's great that she's built a relationship with you folks. That being said, you're the bosses, right? Once I'm sitting inside the seat, you have these concerns, give me a call. There's no immediate concern of letting anybody go. You're hitting the road running, right? So you need somebody out the gate. We're not waiting until January 21st till we take office. This is next day kind of thing. So when you have staff members that are absolutely effective and they're already doing the job, why would you not keep them? And when somebody's voicing and advocating for them, absolutely.
Thank you, Pete.
Tell you, anywhere I go, Tehachapi, Cal City, Mojave, here, people are just so thrilled to have Karen, fighting for them. And really, Karen has been alone. She hasn't had a boss in 6 months, and she's out here just doing the hard work every day. And I've actually contacted Karen myself on a couple of issues, and she's just been wonderful. But I will say it's illegal during a campaign to make promises about anything. But as a person, I think she's wonderful.
I also have had the opportunity to talk with Karen, and